Hi everyone, it's Catherine and I am here with Claire and we are back for our Clash of Kings reread. We're going all the way from Arya 7 to Arya 8, so I need to apologise for setting a mammoth 9 chapters
in 5 days.
5 days! That was poor planning. You can see how tough a teacher I am. So when I'm planning the reread, I literally just eyeball, like I try and get as even as possible. So this just happened to be a section with 9 chapters. Next week it's 6. So I'm sorry, Claire. So that was a challenge, but it's good to have a challenge every now and again. And next week we're reading all the way from Cat 5 to Tyrion 10. So yeah, we're getting through Tyrion really quickly, actually. And we had 2 Arya chapters this week and 2 Cat chapters. And with our Arya chapter, we started with Harrenhal, and I feel like this Arya chapter, introduced a lot of future Arya. So, Claire, welcome. How are you?
Hi. I don't know whether to just kind of look at these 2 chapters together in a way.
Do you want to do that? Will we do that at the end? Because it's separate to the whole book anyway.
Yeah.
Or do you want to come back to Arya? Do you want to do Arya 8 now with Arya 7?
I think if they're in the same location and there isn't a massive amount of movement, like both of the chapters for Arya, she's in Harrenhal, isn't she?
Yeah, and it is there's only one kind of thing I think that happens. No, it doesn't. No, there's nothing really. She doesn't really get the Rob talk. So there's a lot of what Rob is doing, but I don't think it really impacts on anything else that we're reading this week.
No, I'm just thinking of the Cat chapters as well. There's a couple of the Cat chapters, although I think I've got quite a bit to say on it. Let's just keep as we normally do, okay. And not, that was a wild stray off.
Yeah, sorry. This is what it's going to be like because it's Friday night.
Stick to the agenda, Claire.
All right. Sunny's in the chat. Thanks, Sunny. And I have your questions and I will definitely get to them. I've made notes as we go along. So Arya 7, yeah. So we'll probably rush through this fairly quickly. We get lots of stuff about Harrenhal, which I find interesting. Lots of physical descriptions. Jaqen Hagar turns up again, and makes an offer to Arya she can't refuse. And Arya hears about the Stannis letter, which I suppose does feed into the Cat chapter, because Cat doesn't, and that does change the course of events for Cat forever. And that's a bit strange that she's heard of it and Cat hasn't. And yeah, the other thing in this chapter that's pretty big is the bloody mummers show up. And it kind of gets Arya throughout these 2 chapters, actually. She's constantly just scheming, looking for a way out, looking for an ability to manipulate the situation. Unlike Sansa, who we'll see in the next chapter, who's also manipulating in her own way and also looking for an escape. I feel like Arya, the beatings she's getting, I think sometimes we get more of a vivid description. It's almost like Sansa is repressing a lot of the violence that's been done to her. I felt that anyway. But the things that kind of stick out with me is she didn't want to learn any of the people that worked with her, with Weeze, because it hurts when people she knows dies.
Yeah.
Which I feel like that's a bit of a contradiction to the Arya we saw with the brothers earlier. Do you think that kind of contradicts with her a little bit?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. I mean, everything about Arya is her developing her survival mode, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
And in certain situations, she's going to need to, and we don't really know whether it's genuine or not yet, her interactions with other people. Even with Gendry, you'd think that he's a friend, but she's still really pissed off with him for actually getting captured. So it's kind of difficult, really, to tell at the moment. I think she's just very Well, the thing that really strikes me about Arya in this chapter is how busy she is and all the errands that she has to run. And it's like, if the sisters had swapped places and it had been Arya, you know, locked up in the Red Keep under the same circumstances as Sansa, and Sansa in Harrenhal. I mean, I know that Sansa's later on, when she gets to the Eyrie, she's quite resourceful, but I don't think she would have been able to cope in this situation where Arya just kind of rolls her sleeves up and gets on with it.
But do you think that that's almost in a way it helps Arya to cope because she's kept busy, whereas Sansa is constantly running through things in her head. It's way more political for Sansa, and the expectations on her. Yeah, she doesn't really have anything to busy her mind with. Do you know? Maybe she would have been all right. I know what you mean though about like, but I think the fact that she's so much to do, she literally doesn't have time to stop and think about the violence that she's enduring. Arya.
No.
Constantly has to think about it, and there's a constant reminder of it. And at least Arya knows that she's going to get hit pretty much on an hourly basis, whereas Sansa doesn't know when it's coming. She doesn't know how severe it's going to be. She doesn't know which knight is going to do it. She doesn't know what he's going to use to do it. She doesn't know what part of her body is going to be attacked. It's way more psychological torture for Sansa, I think.
Yes, yeah. She has got a certain amount of freedom in a weird, twisted way, Arya.
Yeah,
and it gives her. I mean, I think I mentioned this in the next Arya chapter, that through her point of view, we always seem to be able to take in more of Arya's surroundings. So there's more breadth of like landscape and scenery, and just breadth of her surroundings and what she's doing and where she is, and it's quite refreshing, really, because you get that's. I suppose that helps with the sense of adventure. There seems to be a lot of action and sense of adventure in Arya's chapters.
Do you think Harrenhal? I feel like Harrenhal, it was grossly underserved by the TV show. I know a lot of people had a problem with that. It's just, to me, it sounds like the most fantastical place. It's just amazing with this hall with 100 hearths that can fit all of Tywin's host in it. It's bigger than Winterfell. It has like this 20-acre godswood. It must be the biggest godswood on Westeros, like out north of the Wall.
Possibly,
because 20 acres is huge. But you're right about
the proximity to the God's Eye again.
Yeah,
we mentioned last time. But I suppose it's like its own little microcosm sort of region. It's that huge, the castle. So just the visuals of I think they did in the TV show some of the visuals of like the melted black.
Yeah, they did a little bit, but the interior shots, like when you're trying to visualize this little child trying to take some of those steps, and she has to do it so fast.
I
mean, it's physically, like, the way she describes how tired she is, like, it's physically just exhausting. And I like there's, as you like talk about all the mirroring in the series, but I do think there's a lot of mirroring with Arya and Dany. So Dany is in a similarly large place now in Karth. So it's quite nice to have two very different places, but they're equally just this huge off the scale places. There's a lot of talks of the ghosts as well.
Yes.
She's not afraid of the ghosts, and then at the end she becomes a ghost.
Yeah. She's not scared of the ghosts, and she's not scared of the dead either. Some of the horrific thing. I mean, that thing with Weiss at the end, I'd forgotten about his dog, and I was like, oh God, that's like really gross. And then somebody ended up like shooting the dog, and it's like, oh, it's funny that the dog was, he'd had the dog for so many years, but it was chewing his face off the minute he died. And it's like, oh my God, this is just really horrific. And Arya's seeing all this, which is why we're
Well,
seeing it, obviously.
the horrific thing in this section in 7 is Chiswick and all of
Oh
the
my God.
guys
Yeah.
talking about what they do to that father and daughter. And
Yeah.
Arya, do you think she understands what they're talking about? She must at this stage. Because she
Yeah.
talks about
Yeah.
people getting pregnant for other people, Wees having sex with somebody, like the like I know they're faced with violence all the time, but they're also faced with sexual violence as well, which
Yeah.
I know violence is violence, but there seems something very perverse about them being herself and Bran earlier, just being exposed to such levels of sexual violence as they go through their journey.
I
It
think it's
seems
much more just the occasional murder and rape is much more commonplace in Westeros, isn't it? I suppose people don't, it's a. I wouldn't be surprised if it's something that children of this age, whatever level, um, are aware of. I mean, they, especially with the wall, they know that men are sent to the wall for certain crimes and things. So, but she does seem quite desensitized and almost.
it's scary.
It's like she's manufacturing this shield that again helps us over later on with the faceless men a lot. Every time I read an Arya chapter, I finish the chapter thinking it really is no wonder that she ended up at the House of Black. It was always leading there,
especially in this book.
Yeah. It's just a natural progression of her story, definitely. But I think she's definitely had an emotional reaction to that horrific story about the rape and the innkeeper's daughter and everything. It's oh God, and just the mountain, and the mountain's men. But she obviously had, because these are the details that I can't remember prior to doing this reread, but that the first name was Chiswick, and Chiswick was that was a forgotten thing for me. I had no idea. So I remember who were the three people, and it's like, and this chapter is all about, she's thinking again about, it's like you say, she's thinking about escape. So every now and again she thinks, well, I'm in a situation where I could actually leave now, or she get that child's perspective of not really knowing that much about geography, and she admits she didn't really pay attention to all that stuff that Maester Lewin was teaching them back at Winterfell, the flags and sigils and that kind. She wasn't really that interested, and she's kind of regretting that now, because she's got all this heraldry and she's trying to figure out she is aware of the bigger picture, that there is a war going on, and it's Lannisters versus Starks, because there's two things that happen here. She has an emotional reaction to who the names should be. Then she kind of backsteps and regrets that and wishes that she didn't. I mean, I know we're going into the next chapter here as well. So but I think even though she might, you might look back as a reader and say, oh, she's a child and she made some really silly mistakes. She could have said, Tywin or Bolton or blah, 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 whoever, the not Bolton at this stage, but the higher up Lannister men or the Mountain, there's plenty, but she is aware of that. She's rushing around in the next chapter trying to get hold of Jaqen before they all leave. So I think she is aware of the bigger picture, and she does think about the Stark. She's a Stark, and it's all about us versus them. But she can't help having this emotional reaction where it's like, this guy has got to die for what I've just heard about this horrific story. So she's not that desensitized, and she does still have some sort of like awareness of there's a higher up strategic thing. It's just the details of it, like who's who, and but it's interesting for us as readers as we pick up these little snippets of messages and things that she's carrying around. I do really like the chapters actually of Arya.
I really do too, and I think I think towards the end she realizes, shit, I should be killing people for the greater good, not for myself. And I think she's lucky that there's a certain amount of freedom in anonymity that Sansa doesn't have, because only for Jaqen knows who she is, she wouldn't even have this amazing kind of power at her disposal. But she immediately needs to use it for herself, because it's almost recognizing that she's still Arya Stark. If she takes it and kind of does something very personal with it, like a very vengeful Arya Stark or Stark thing to do. Very kind of a way that maybe her uncle Brandon Stark would have reacted to something, you know. Just let's go and we'll think about the consequences later. But Chiswick, and you're as an adult, you're reading it going, well, Chiswick is the kind of guy, he's got a big mouth. Someone will take care of him fairly soon, if not the mountain themselves, because you know people that are braggarts, they get their comeuppance very quickly, especially at this time. But yeah, it's the one thing I wanted to ask you about was Jaqen coming to her with his offer. It says the red god needs his payment. Do the faceless men always say red god?
No, it's the god of death, isn't it, for the faceless men?
Yeah. So I was a bit confused about that. Is that
me too?
Yeah.
It is like because he's from Lorath, isn't he?
Yeah.
And the red god is quite popular in Essos. Whether or not it's, I don't know. I haven't got the World of Ice and Fire in front of me to see whether, you know, I'm not entirely sure. But that is it. That's very confusing. He could just be saying, he could be saying that to her because at this stage she doesn't understand the concept of the faceless men. So maybe just introducing another god that she would have heard of before, like these are the rules, this needs to happen. Maybe that's mixed up with him originally worshipping the red god, like she does the old gods as a faceless man.
Is he like Arya? Is he like Rogue?
Yeah, maybe. Oh, maybe. Yeah.
That's what I was wondering. Yeah. Does he see himself in her?
Because this is something you can imagine Arya saying later on down the line, like, this is for the old gods. You know, the old gods need this, especially when you think about the blood sacrifice with the old gods. So maybe, because they don't seem to know him at all, do they? When she goes there, it's like,
and it's a bit. He's such an enigmatic character. Yeah, I mean, you know, has he finished his training? Was he really ever properly trained? Like, what, you know, what's going on with him? So, no, it's just when I saw that, I was like, that's interesting that he said the red god. And then maybe he's just trying to hide the fact of what he really is about. If he said god of death and they're the only ones who say that, then it would give him away.
Yeah.
But
confusing, but again, there's a number of reasons why that could potentially be.
Yeah.
But we don't know at this stage. I tend to think probably just to get for the message to be a bit more palatable for Arya. Yeah.
Hi to P Sand in the chat as well. So we'll come back to Arya later on, will we? And we'll move on to the most frustrating chapter in the entire series.
Yes.
Cat 3. And Sunny has a question here. So will we start with Sunny's question?
Okay.
So Sunny's question is my chronology correct? Stannis tells Jon Arryn about Cersei's incest. Jon decides to send Robin to Dragonstone. Jon tells Lysa that Robin is going. Lysa and Peter get the poison to stop Robin from leaving. So far, I'm with you on everything. That's the way I see it as well. Jon goes to a brothel with Stannis to look at Robert's children. Yeah, that's the only thing I'm not sure about when they go to start visiting the brothel. It may be all happening simultaneously. But it could be. Jon asks for the lineages book from, I'll say that anyway, from Pycelle. Jon immediately gets sick and dies. So how does Stannis know about Cersei's incest? Now I know why there's no POV from Stannis. Thanks so much, Sunny Frank, aka Joan.
Well, the presumption in this set of chapters is that Stannis has just figured it out himself. He's he's deduced from whether that's just doing a bit of detective work or maybe having somebody whispering in his ear or just through sheer observation of, hang on a minute. Well, because sometimes things like that are not, not obvious to everybody, but then you get one person that just like, it's about how the way you think about things and how, we're all kind of fed this stock story, and it's we just take it, and why would you ever need to question it? Well, obviously Stannis did for some reason need to question it. It might be because there's this whole thing again, and it's very prevalent in this chapter with the whole King's games and brothers games. There's lots of psychological stuff, I think, that happened between those three brothers. And I think there was lots and lots of like these brothers games where it would be competitiveness and one-upmanship and they all ended up being kings, for God's sake. They couldn't all be kings. And even Renly in this chapter admits, yeah, you've got a better claim, but I've got look at the troops that I've got, and he's flexing his these supposed king skills that he's got. So it could be that Stannis was in a different mindset to everybody else because he was looking for reasons to destabilize the monarchy because of this brotherly competition with his who knows but we're led to believe as readers that Stannis figured this out himself. He then went to Jon Arryn to discuss the matter. He obviously decided not to go to Robert immediately. Maybe it was just, look, I've got a suspicion, can we find out a bit more about this? And that's when they started doing, I suppose, the detective work around the brothels and figuring out that all of Robert's bastards had black hair. So
how different would it have been if they had included Renly, Jon and Stannis, if they had gone to Renly as well and said, this is what's, sorry, Pisand, sometimes when you use the word bastard, which I'm fine with, the chat holds it for review, so if you don't see your question straight away, that's why. But keep using bastard, I'm fine with that. It's just YouTube are extra careful. But yeah, how different would it have been if he just just wasn't so pig stubborn and included Renly? Renly may not have reacted the way he did if he would have been more concerned about Robert, because that's what he was always trying to do. He was trying to get Marjorie to get with Robert. It wasn't about him. So had Stannis just included Renly and you see that through this conversation with Kat.
But again, they're so
frustrating,
so competitive with each other that he never would have done that. But I've just peace and in the comments. Stannis was the one who went to Jon Arryn with the incest information. Yeah, he's surprised that it took so long to work it out. Everybody else knew. They did. I mean, there was a lot of people that way it was kind of like an open secret, really. You might know about it, but it'd be treason. It would cost you your head to ever really, talk about it.
Do you think Robert knew?
No, I honestly think that he was so obsessed with Lyanna that he spent the rest of his life developing this fairy tale whilst whoring and drinking himself to death. I think that's what he'd already decided his path was going to be. So Stannis is all about what's right, and he can't let a bastard inherit the throne. Absolutely. He would have had to have done something about it, but he went to Jon Arryn rather than confronting Robert.
And Pisand also says Renly knew his Marjorie plan wouldn't have worked otherwise. But this is my question about Renly. When does Renly figure it out? Because I feel like Renly is genuinely shocked when Kat comes to him in the next chapter that we'll have later. Just how much evidence there is Like there's actual evidence of this incest, whereas Stannis is very confident that there's enough evidence in what he has, you know. Potential bastard that is the spit of Robert. Like he went on that. Like he didn't need the book. He went on that bastard looks looks like my brother. So I think I don't know, there is a little bit of question there. The other thing I have in this chapter, he complains to he's like a wounded schoolboy that, like, you know, people were knocking his books to the ground every day, and now he's getting his own back. Now he's Bill Gates. He complains to Kat that Ned was made hand. He should have been made hand. And that kind of, it's like, well, you'd already left at that stage. So why did you want to come back to be hand when you already knew you were king, or you were the rightful king? Like, you were the rightful heir. Like, why complain about that? It's just, everything is just, he feels so slighted by everything. He's so unable to see anything other than the way people slight him, and you know, and it's very petty. It's not a. I see why people like Stannis, but this chapter is so frustrating. And a lot of it's to do with Renly's peacocking and Stannis's just wounded pride for every little thing. And you can see Kat is just trying to pull her hair out. She's going, what is going on with these two?
Yeah, she wants to knock their heads together. And then P-Sans, if only the Baratheons could work together in Westeros, would be a very different place. Absolutely.
But the Baratheons were a huge problem. They were like...
Yes. Yeah, completely. So, you know, there's... it's so frustrating, this chapter. So there's a few questions that I've got here. I mean, just going back to it being Kat's chapter again, just the frustration of, she doesn't seem to know where she needs to be. Riverrun, Winterfell, she doesn't seem to know where she should be. And she also, like, what did she expect to actually achieve with this, really? And did, my question is, did Rob even know that she'd left? Because this was an extra trip, wasn't it, going to Storm's End?
Storm's End.
You know, he wouldn't.
No. Wasn't she sent to Storm's End to Renly anyway?
Yeah, but that was, she was sent to, basically, he was at Bitterbridge, wasn't he? It's all in the same region. But Stannis was heading for Storm's End to take Storm's End, and everyone was hoping that the brothers would just battle it out together. And well, that's what they're hoping in King's Landing. But so why on earth was she there at this parley between Stannis and Renly? What did she hope to achieve? Did she have Rob's leave to be involved in this? She was making potential pacts and alliances.
It didn't start off as a parley, though, did it? Like, I assumed Renly just gatecrashed.
No, they arranged to meet, didn't they?
Oh, did they? Okay, no, I thought she was arranging to... Okay, I misunderstood that. I thought she was arranging to meet Stannis, and then Renly just rocked up.
No, they were meeting to... But basically, to parley to see. And it was like, it's unavoidable. There's going to be a battle, but
I suppose
they both wanted each other to bend the knee.
Who else would be neutral in that situation to talk between them? It's in her interest. It's in her son's interest for her to do that, I think. And honestly, I don't think anyone. I think potentially, if Kat may have potentially stopped them from killing each other there and then. Yeah,
maybe. Yeah.
If there had been a man there, it may not have gone that well. At least with a woman, Stannis has some sort of, I don't know, some sort of control. So I have a couple of questions as well. We have Stannis obviously knows that Renly is gay. Like, she's like, to stay a maid in your bed.
Yeah.
and
Loras, like at the very end of the chapter, Renly asking Loras to stay and help him pray. Yeah.
But Renly doesn't even blink an eyelid when Stannis says that to him about Marjorie. He says, there's other ways to get out.
Yeah.
Child on her. So I don't know what that means. Turkey baster. Did they have turkey basters? The Mel thing was interesting with Renly. The cryptic might look to your sins.
Yeah.
I
Well,
wasn't sure what that meant.
well, she's trying. Well, I mean, the obvious thing is she's trying to undermine him. Clearly, undermined him. But it could be that she's seen something in the flames and she knows, or maybe she's just had a chat with Stannis and Stannis has said, look, this is how ineffectual Renly would be as a leader, and here's some of the things that he's done in his past. But the thing that really stood out to me was when Kat was describing the sigil, Stannis's new sigil, the stag inside the fiery heart. And it's described as she couldn't see it at first, but then she recognized the stag, but it was shrunken and enclosed within the heart. And just that description of the stag being shrunken, and it's like, yeah, you need to stop and think here, Stannis, about what's going on here, because you're compromising yourself way too much for this burning desire that you've got, for which is, on paper it is the right thing. He is the right, the rightful ruler of the Seven Kingdoms, but Jesus, he goes about it in such a ridiculous way. Yeah.
I with this, I'm kind of like, why? I've forgotten. Why do people like Stannis? I know we've said like when he comes to the wall and stuff, but apart from that, I'm like, this is.
Yeah.
But my big question for you is, how would things would have been very different. Not how would things, but things would have been very different had Renly not asked Kat to stay. Like, if you think about it, it's Brienne still would have been in the same position, and it would have been a lot worse for her.
Yeah.
Jamie would probably be dead. There's so, from this one instance again, Kat, this one little thing, Renly making her stay, not allowing her to leave, is going to change the course of history again.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like with Lysa, and it's just, it's going to just change the course of history all over again. Very interesting, because at this stage, Stannis, hey AU, Stannis could also be right now a suspect for Jon Arryn's death, just the way he's talking in this chapter. Even though he respects Jon Arryn, he's threatening to rob, and he's talking about duty a lot, and I don't think it's above the realm of possibilities that he could kill. He would kill anybody to see duty done.
Yeah.
He doesn't have any honor. I feel like Stannis isn't very honorable.
It's a brutal type of honor, I suppose. It's just that, by any means necessary kind of attitude.
What do you think, chat? Is Stannis honorable? It's so this chapter is just very frustrating, and you can hear, like, I really feel for Kat in this chapter. I really, like, she is just literally stuck between a rock and a very harder rock.
Yeah. She's you can kind of feel how frustrating it is when she just, it's all been for nothing. But again, I'm like, what did she? Come on, Kat, what did you really expect to achieve? But maybe she just didn't know them very well, and she just thought these are two men that just need their heads banging together. But it runs much, much deeper than that with these two. In fact, with all three of them. And
the other thing, of course, is that she didn't have an inkling about this incest. Which, how did she miss that?
Yeah.
So the letter has arrived before she got to, but they didn't stop in anywhere. They didn't hear this is around the kingdom. Everybody knows a Harrenhal in the previous chapter.
I know, it's funny, especially because it's like, how did the thing that made me laugh was Renly repeating the horrible rumor to Stannis about Patchface servicing Selyse. Like, she had like sexually like servicing her, and Stannis knowing about that, and that Shireen is you know, daughter of Patchface and Selyse, and so he kind of throws this into this this conversation, which Stannis just kind of dismisses. But it's like, how did something like that ridiculous rumor that started in King's Landing reach Renly's ears already at this point?
How has the incest stuff not reached Cat?
Exactly.
Because as soon as she processes it in the next chapter, very, very quickly, she's like, shit, that's what Bran saw.
Yes, she figures it out. Yeah.
So had she had that information in this chapter, at this parley, because what she says with Renly, and realizing, you know, we have evidence of this incest with Bran. Yeah. We just need to go and get Bran down here. Like, if she'd known that here, it would have just changed the game completely. But of course, then we wouldn't have a series probably, or we'd already have wins.
Yeah, Stannis is like Ned in many ways. He does have honor. And Sonny Frank is saying, yeah, Ned and Stannis are like old school. Yeah, there is that. It's kind of that. They are quite similar actually, because he's very, you know, in the book he's described as just being very somber all the time, isn't he, Ned? Yeah. And but I don't know. I feel like there's a slight softness there to Ned that there isn't with Stannis.
Oh no, definitely.
It's just all pent up frustration with him.
Especially when he says that he'd be happy to deliver her daughters to her, and Kat thinks, yeah, he means dead or alive.
Yeah,
he doesn't do shit.
And he's also like, you know, keep that son of yours in check.
Yeah,
because you know, traitors are falling left, right, and centre. Which
is so different to Renly. And I do like the Renly thing where he knows he's not humble, but he's like, every king is allowed their weakness.
Yeah.
But that's a massive weakness, and that's what gets him killed, I think. AU says Shadow Baby honourably. Yes, Shadow Babies are honourable. Don't you know that? Okay, we'll get to the Shadow Baby very soon, but between this and the Shadow Baby, we have Sansa 3, unless you've anything else to say about Cat.
Just that the infamous Peach made the appearance in this chapter, so... And again, it was that sort of... it's that, just take it, and which is mirrors, in a way, the scene from Danny's chapter last week with Jorah, where he was like, you know, just if things could be as easy as this. So the peach really is very symbolic of look what I can give you if you bend the knee. But actually, Stannis' offer to Renly, which is bend the knee, you'll have a place on the small council. You can have Storm's End. I will even name you heir until I have a son myself. And it's like, well, what, you might not have a son. So basically what he's saying there is, yeah, if I don't have a male heir, I'm quite happy for my brother, because it's the right thing to do for him. And it's like, actually, that is fair. When you actually read between all the, you know,
it's totally fair.
The kind of dick swinging show that they put on, and just this flexing that they're doing, and ridiculous, utter kind of show that they put on. It's actually what Stannis is actually offering underneath it all. He's actually fairly reasonable. And I think that's, you know, that's reflected later on. I think when Stannis is regretful, I think it's not just regretful because of Renly and the whole Peach thing, but I think it's just... it's kind of like just frustrating, because it's like, why didn't you just take it? Why didn't you take it?
That is it. And I should say, I'm coming down very hard on Stannis here, but he's the rightful king of Westeros.
Yeah.
And Renly is a complete, like, he's...
jumped.
He's absolute pain in the arse. And why Cat? If I was Cat in this situation, I would have said, do you know what, Stannis, you are the rightful king, and we can talk about my son later on. I'm going to go with you now.
But look at the thing that will just always be the game changer is that looking behind you and seeing that massive host.
Yeah.
That's like, it doesn't matter what's honourable and true and the right thing to do at that point. I mean, in the next chapter, where Brienne is dressing Renly, and she's putting the crate. And there's this thing about this sort of cushioned cap that she puts on him before he puts the crown. It's like, yeah, your crown has to be cushioned, and that's basically the Tyrells are doing that. Nothing about this is you earning this yourself and it being the right thing, the comfortable thing to do.
It is quite impressive what Renly has managed to do.
Yeah, but I think that to me it's just a big patsy for the power grubbing Tyrells.
Yeah.
In the shape of Loras and this kind of lustful relationship that they've got. It's just, they've offered him power, and it's all, it's like some kind of summer camp where they are.
Yeah.
So they're clueless. They're these sweet summer children. So
do you think if Robert had gone to Dragonstone, Robert Arryn, was the idea there that Stannis was the rightful heir, so that Shireen and Robert then would marry, and they would carry forth as the next royal couple until Renly was a bit of an upstart? Was that Jon and Stannis's? I wonder, was that what was going on? Maybe they never vocalized that idea, but
yeah, maybe.
I wonder, was that part of it? I know he just wants to get him away from Lysa, but we'll talk about Lysa in Kat's next chapter, of course.
It is very frustrating that it's a big hole in the plot that we know nothing about Jon Arryn's motivations.
Yeah.
Okay,
well, we might in the future, hopefully. Then we have Sansa 3. I can't read this chapter now without thinking of LaDonna. I disagree. Renly was very shrewd. I disagree. Renly was very shrewd and actually quite ruthless. He was willing to do what he needed to do. He just coated in the pretty helpless prince garb.
Yeah.
I mean, there is a lot of that. There's summer children and all that kind of thing. All of his.
I mean, he did feel that he would be a better ruler. But he does say you need people to. Again, it's that whole argument about leadership and the best way to lead. But it's not always the nicest people that get things done. But he did genuinely believe that he would be a good, fair, just ruler. So.
And we learned that in life.
Yeah.
That's that. He is a very realistic character, Renly. So then we have Sansa 3, and I was just saying I can't read this chapter without thinking of LaDonna.
Yes.
When you're shipping Sansa and Sandor, if you do. Sansan. This is particularly savage. The Joffrey's beating here. He's a sadistic little creep. And Boris, Meryn, they're all just creeps. And you can't but respect the Hound in this chapter. He stands up for her three times actually. He stands up for her. And there's a couple of things that I'm interested in. She's being punished because of Robb has taken, and I can't remember the name of it, but he's taken a Lannister group. He's had a battle and completely wiped them out. Or pretty much wiped them out, and they have no idea how he did it. Tyrion is lost, doesn't have a clue how he did it. Cat doesn't know anything about it yet, and Sansa's getting blamed by Joffrey, and Joffrey says he's supposed to have giants, and he has an army of wargs with him. And complains about the direwolves, and we'll learn a lot about warging. Or a lot more about warging in the Bran chapter, but what do you think that's all about, the army of wargs?
Well, I don't know. Maybe something did happen that we don't know about, but this is the battle at Whispering Wood, isn't it? Where I think it's Steffon Lannister is defeated.
No, it's the battle it begins with Oz something. Whispering Wood would have happened a long time ago. That's
already.
Jamie.
Right. I'm thinking of Theon, talking about his reminiscing about his victories.
Yeah, I was actually thinking that
this
this might link to Theon though, because
uh,
are these the wargs? Are they the wild hares that Theon takes out? In his
maybe.
chapter? Yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
I'll get the name of it here. You work away there. I'll
Well,
find the name of it.
Well, what I was just going to ask actually, does Joffrey have any redeeming characteristics? Is there anything that we can see in Joffrey that's like, this is why he's acting this way?
Oxcroft,
Is he?
thanks, AU.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Is there anything that we can see? As I was going to say forgive him for, but it just is there anything that's like, redeeming quality? I mean, Cersei's his mother.
He was born with opposable thumbs.
Yeah.
That's about it.
He's horrible, isn't he? Again, I'm trying to think of, we never get a point of view character from these types of characters.
There's only like the Mountain is like him, and like I'm trying to think of characters that are completely irredeemable in the series. The Mountain, Joffrey,
Ramsay Bolton and Euron.
Ramsay Bolton, Euron, yeah.
Well, I just
every region needs their version.
Yeah. I think in the position that he's in, he's seeing Robb as the enemy. He's also probably remembering the arguments that they had in the in Winterfell when they were battling with the wooden swords and everything. So he's going to, you're not going to say, oh, my gentle enemy, who hopefully they're going to be described as northern savages and this weird creepy magic that they've got where they can change in skin change and change into animals. And well, what makes you even think that? Why would you even go there? Because he's got this massive direwolf that's really freaking everybody out. So, I mean, this is why they're going to be talking about the North as being savages. I mean, it does make me laugh, actually, the inner dialogue that Sansa has in her head, and Arya as well, about what my brother is actually going to do to you. And, they both do the same thing, so they're similar in that respect. Yeah, I'm wondering, at one point in this chapter, Tyrion actually asks the Hound to beat her, and it stopped just at that minute with Tyrion arriving. But I wonder what would have happened. I wonder what the response would have been from the Hound.
Joffrey asks the Hound to
Joffrey basically says, to the
I think
somebody else who was in
I think he would have covered her with his cloak. I don't think he was waiting for Tyrion to tell him that. I don't think he's no, I don't. And I'm not saying it's a romantic thing, but I don't think Sandor Clegane is a true knight. Yeah. Underneath it all, he's a truer knight than a lot of them. I know he's killed a kid. I know that. I know he's done a lot of horrible shit. But compared to some of the others, he's pretty awful. Pretty awful. So
are you saying no? Yeah. In response to what?
Joffrey, is there any redeeming quality?
Oh, is there any? Yeah.
And Pisan said, and I'm going to disagree with you here. In another fantasy, Renly would be the true king and would win, but Gurm shows up and he's pretty. Is some jagged edges. I think in another fantasy, Robb would be king. Robb Stark.
Yeah.
So I think there's no jagged edges there really with Robb, and yet he's still not king in the end. So
yeah.
But yeah, I liked the way Tyrion says that when they're talking about the warg thing and the giants and all that, sorcery hides incompetence. Like all of the rumors about the magic that Robb is using, they're like, no, they're just saying that they're magic, so they don't have to admit that they're incompetent.
Yeah.
I really like that idea. Because Dany will be incompetent with magic later on at times. And I just wondered, my only real question here is obviously Sandor and Sansa are now engaged, so that's fine. I'm joking. How would Cersei have reacted? Although, sorry, I do think Sansa still has that cloak.
Yeah.
How would Cersei have reacted if she had walked in? Would she have stopped it?
I think there's been a few times where she chastises him in front of others, in front of her father.
Mm-hmm.
But she's very reactive with her emotions, isn't she, Cersei? It depends on what kind of situation she's just come from. But I think Joffrey would have stopped at the sight of his mother anyway.
You see, my thing is, I think she sees herself in Sansa a lot. I mean, Tywin was Ned. Tywin was a traitor as well. Like he traitor.
Yeah.
He committed an act of treason against Ares. But yeah, I like to think that she would stop it. At the Cersei now, I think. Maybe not later Cersei, but I'd like to think she would stop it. Although, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's it for me and Sansa. What do you say on this one?
Yeah, there's along just to add with the I've got something trapped under my foot here.
At least you're not getting punched in the belly. For goodness sake.
That's true.
God, Clare, a bit of compassion.
She seems strangely fascinated with ugly when she sees Tyrion. She's kind of like,
and she walks to the other side of the hound, so she doesn't have to look at his burnt face.
Yeah. So she's, things are changing, and there's this, she thinks about how she hates nights too, like Sandor hates nights, that kind of thing. She wants Sodontos to get her away from this horror as soon as possible, but Tyrion showing some kindness to her, and he's a Lannister, so she's very kind of, she's I don't think she's confused. I think she's just concerned about whether or not this is all a trick. And her main focus is she just wants to get away as soon as possible. So she's again looking for an escape route.
And she thinks about the fact that she's put into Arya's room as well.
Yes. Yeah.
P-San says, true in terms of Rob, what I was saying about Rob, but Renly is presented as a fantasy image, which is absolutely true. Probably more fantastical than Rob even, who is probably warging. And Rob is more grounded. He's who the reader expects to win a Song of Ice and Fire before we're disabused of that idea. Exactly. And P-Sand also says, Cersei has a lot in common with both Sansa and Cat, for sure. And
Cat kind of reflects on this, actually, doesn't she? In this next chapter,
she does. Yeah. So that's all I have for Sansa. Will we jump into Cat?
Yeah. Wow. So we've literally just a quick interlude and then back to Cat again.
Yeah. Yeah, and that Sansa chapter is difficult when you go from this then into Cat, and this is a great chapter. I love this chapter a lot. This is the chapter where Renly is killed, and it's just as she's delivering this truth that she's come upon while praying, pretty much, that Bran is the one. He saw everything. And she says this great line to Renly, which I think is a defining line for the whole series, that if they can just get Bran to tell his tale, then all of the Seven Kingdoms will see the truth, kind of thing.
Yes.
It's this great idea. It's like, that's the whole point of this. That's the whole point of this whole series. We need Bran to tell his story. So that's brilliant.
People to listen as well.
I'm sorry?
And for people to listen to that story.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, I know what you're going to talk about. What Septon Osmond said to her, or Osmond said to her. You're probably going to mention that, right?
Yes.
I'm not going to say anything about that. I just want to skip on to does Cat have a touch of green sight? And I know I've brought this up before with the Tullys. There's something with Cat here when she's praying. She has this almost religious experience where she can see each of the gods representing somebody. So when she sees the warrior when she sees the father, it's her father. Like Rob and Stannis and Renly and all that, but she also says Jon Snow, and then she says, and a glimpse of Arya almost. She thought she saw Arya as well.
Yeah.
And the idea of the warrior representing, and this is like when we're talking about the seven gods, we often talk about how different characters across the series seems to represent those gods in some ways. But she also sees in this very strange vision, she thinks she sees Lysa's face. And I'm kind of going, yeah, keep going, because that's a big answer here. If you like, Lysa is a massive thing that you need to know about, but then it changes to Cersei's face, and it's just so brilliantly, like, it so brilliantly represents what's going on. Like, they're so distracted by what the Lannisters are doing, and rightfully so, that they're missing out on like what Littlefinger and Lysa are doing, and what other people are scheming to do. Like, like Cersei is the main focus, but nobody really pays attention to Tywin himself, I feel sometimes. So yeah, that's the only thing I have here is could Bran's truth have changed things? I'm optimistic in that it could have. And I think things could have been very different had Stannis just not killed Renly. But of course Stannis probably realized he wasn't going to.
Or that if Robert had found out any of this before it all got to that stage, but
yeah, but
it just seems like no one was.
Renly seems to be taking her seriously.
Yeah,
and then he's just gone. And it's just so, oh God, Brienne's heart, you can just see it breaking.
Yes,
and the fight, and Kat handles that brilliantly. She handles it like, as bad as it is, she does handle it well. And telling her not to run and just walk out of here, so that oh hi Kay, just walk out of here slowly, carefully, all that kind of thing. But yeah, so my big thing is, does Kat have a touch of green sight, or is somebody speaking to her again? Like, I believe somebody was speaking to her throughout Game of Thrones.
I think possibly the latter. I'm not sure she's got any green sight. Yeah, I don't know. I'm not sure.
No, maybe not green sight. I kind of lean towards somebody's speaking to her.
Somebody's giving us some kind of subliminal messages.
Because we had way more conflicted inner monologue all the way through a Game of Thrones with Kat. And that has pretty much stopped until this point, where she seems to be wanting to see things she wants to see, but then is being shown things she needs to see, like Arya and Jon. For some reason, Jon Snow, why would she even be thinking of him? And Lysa. So there's definitely something is definitely influencing her, I feel.
Yeah, I mean, it could just be that, the sort of prayer and meditation bringing these sort of feelings to the forefront, but
mindfulness,
yeah,
Westerosi style.
I didn't really have a massive amount about the village sept, apart from this religion is obviously prevalent. It's everywhere, and it doesn't matter if you've got a big, giant, shining sept of Baelor, or if you've just got something on the back of a rock kind of thing, with charcoal drawings. But again, we're reminded, or maybe actually the first time that we are told that in this religion there is only one God, but there are 7 aspects, because it's very easy to forget that and to think, oh, this is a religion of, especially because they refer to it as the new gods, plural, and you think that there are these 7 gods, or I suppose they're kind of 7 aspects, but I suppose they're sort of like prophets. But I just think it's absolutely genius if you were going to invent a religion to include something that just appeals to everybody. This one, but my question, I suppose, you've got everyone, who would pray to the maiden, and who would, it's like choose your favorite prophet, and that's the one that you pray to. But who worships the stranger, I wonder?
Well, isn't that the faceless men? Is that kind of like what the stranger is? Like their god
Well,
of death is kind of like, I always thought that was like the stranger was like, I know it's not there now in the seven, but I thought that may have come from, it's very I know George has said he was inspired by Catholicism, old school Catholicism. And like even growing up in Ireland, because the Irish Catholicism or version of Catholicism is very much influenced by old pagan faiths as well. Like people, and I know it's that way for Italians often as well, that, and it's one of the big problems that the Reformation kind of uncovered, this kind of worshipping of saints to almost a deity like level, and really like old school Christianity and Catholicism, it was almost polytheistic in the way people actually practiced it. And even now, people will pray to Saint Anthony or Saint Christopher or the Virgin Mary. Like they're not always praying to God. So that's how I kind of interpret the religion of the seven. That there's kind of one master, but I mean, it's very, very similar to the Trinity, isn't it? The idea of the Spirit, and without the backstory, I guess we don't have a Bible from the seven as such. But I think it's way more polytheistic. But the reason why that was problematic for the church and for the Reformation and all that, hugely problematic, because people weren't letting go of their pagan religion, which kind of which kind of supports your idea that all of this is coming from old gods. That this isn't, they couldn't possibly, they don't focus on the one God thing because people won't accept it. They're too used to their old gods, their old saints. But that's
exactly.
Like, if you
Brilliant.
go into church here in Zurich, whenever you come visit me, Claire, I'll bring you. But there's like, it's all completely stripped of all of the paintings, and this is true of a lot of Protestant churches throughout Europe, just completely stripped of any kind of iconography, because it was very polytheistic. Like, and it's hard for people to wrap their heads around that. But I think like the North American
Well, it's
version
less
of Christianity,
organized, I guess, as well, isn't it? It's more of a personal faith thing.
And it's also very difficult for you to, like, if you're a priest in a community, for you to serve a community if she's more into Saint Anthony and he's more into Saint Christopher and all this kind of thing. They really like the Virgin Mary, but they're not so keen on this lad, that kind of way. It's harder. It makes for kind of a messy kind of system. But like where I didn't really fully, like, obviously I was raised Catholic, but I'm not Catholic anymore, and I didn't really fully get how crazy iconography was until a few years ago. We visited Moscow and we went to one of the churches in Red Square, and it is off the charts. Like, it's dizzying. Like, these people must have been, like, this is why when Kat goes in there, she almost has this religious experience because of the surroundings as much as anything else. And that was true, like, of people walking into these churches. You can imagine, like, takes over a century to build this thing. It's the tallest thing for miles and miles and miles around. And same with your castles or whatever, they're all painted bright colors and they've got all the, like, it's dizzying. You're not used to seeing that. You're used to just seeing shit and muck and clothes made out of boring colors. The incense is burning, everything is just kind of, it's very heady. So people do have these really strong religious experiences that for, like, for the Reformation, for Protestants in particular, it was very difficult for the state to fight against that kind of iconography. So that's why ultimately why they have to get rid of it. And it wouldn't surprise me if going into Winds and A Dream of Spring, that becomes a bigger problem with, and it is going to be a huge problem with the faith of the seven, and the Lannisters in particular, who themselves have this iconography of them being in gold all of the time and expecting to be worshipped, like Joffrey does from Sansa 3. But it does, like you've been saying for the last few weeks, it all has roots in like in a similar way, the tallest things around when the first men would have landed were those beautiful weirwoods. Like, I mean, one of them completely covers a whole village.
Yeah.
And it's brightly coloured, red and white. It must have been a remarkable thing to see. So it inspires all. That's how I read it, that it inspires all this worship. Sorry, I went on a bit of a theological rant.
No, that's fine. Hi, Kay. There's a couple of things here where while she's having this religious experience, she's also on a very personal level, she's kind of questioning who she's serving. What is she, what is her mission, I guess, here? So maybe she's thinking back to what her original mission was when she was kind of, married off to Winterfell, to the north. But she's also thinking about who she's serving in terms of Robb as well. She does mention that incest is seen as an abomination to all gods, like all religions. Apart from the Targaryens, who seem to just not answer to any gods at all. So it's almost like they think they are gods somehow. And then the thing that I was thinking, the idea that Kat had, where she kind of comes to Renly just before he dies, and she says, okay, why don't we just get all of the lords in the Seven Kingdoms together, rule as some sort of like democratic assembly, all get together to just get rid of the evil, which is the Lannisters. Come on, let's do this. We can do it. And it's like, would that ever? I mean, she's kind of laughed off, but it's like, would that ever? Was she being really naive there? Would that ever have worked?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I think. Do you think she could have done a better job at convincing Renly to take Stannis' offer?
I think he's already so convinced of his own potential as king, and he's got this dizzy. I mean, he's just the way he's being treated by everybody else, and he's got this massive. He's just got so much self-confidence because of the numbers.
What would happen if she tried to leave? Like, what would Renly have done? Would he have tied her up?
I don't think so. I think it was. I think he would have just let her go. The reason he wanted her there was because he wanted her to take a message back to Robb. This is what we, we're not messing about here. This is what we'll do to traitors. So, And
is this the chapter? Was it the previous chapter where she's, and even when we first meet Renly, she thinks of him as a king. She calls him Your Grace, and she thinks of him as a king in her head. Like, she thinks of him as a king.
Yeah, she does towards the end, doesn't she? Yeah, just at the end. It's it's really weird, that whole scene with the gust of wind and the king's shadow and the candle shivering and something dark and evil, and just the way everyone turns on Brienne. And I mean, we got to remember as well that Brienne does swear to kill Stannis, and that's going to mean something later on. I think they took that quite literally in the show, and I just don't think that that's going to end up. I don't think that's going to end up happening at all. I don't think that's going to be the fate. But the only other thing that I wanted to mention in this chapter again is about the siege of Storm's End. Was mentioned, and that Cresson advised them. Oh God, they must have been at such a horrible situation at the time.
Oh God, yeah.
That they were. Cresson was saying, "Don't throw them over the walls." It's we're getting to the point where it's like it's good meat that you're throwing over the walls, and it's like and they were literally tying them up just as Davos arrived, like literally in the nick of time. And it just makes me think, if they were at that stage where they were just about to stop throwing men over to eat that, I honestly think that is a real. I don't think it's one of those little Easter eggs that I don't think will probably ever be revealed in the books. But Donald Noy, the one-armed smith at the wall, that was this Baratheon man at Storm's End, and it's like, I wonder if that was like, you know, aperitif for the main course.
Well, and
but, yeah,
we will see it happening in 2 chapters from now with Lady Hornwood, you know.
Oh, yeah.
So there's precedent for it.
There is.
For sure, yeah. It's horrible. So horrible. But yeah, that's, I mean, it's a very graphic scene, the way they're fighting over his body and they decapitate him.
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah.
Poor Brienne.
There's something about the Royces here as well. They seem to be kind of flipping, because she said, what are you doing here? You basically, I'm sure, couldn't she have just ordered him, get your stuff, get out of here. This isn't your king. You know, my father is your liege lord. Yes. Get back to the Riverlands. Stop all this messing about with this. You took Renly for your king. It's ridiculous. But yeah, it just makes me think. I think there's something about this Royce family.
But it's the same something with the Red Winds. In the previous chapter, aren't they faithful to Tyrell, or? Like,
yes.
But they're with the Lannisters.
Well, not at the moment. I think Tyrion wants to get them on side.
Oh, okay, because they won't look at Sansa when she enters the hall.
Yeah.
But the Royces are interesting, and the History of Westeros, the podcast with Aziz, they have an amazing podcast on the Royces. Because they're in everything. They're in every house, and it's the first highborn character we meet in the entire series.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, in the prologue, yeah.
So they're in everything, and they have a great podcast on it. And I haven't listened to it in a while now, and I need to listen to it again. But they're kind of a mysterious kind of. They have an egg in every basket around Westeros. You know, they're very prevalent.
Pisan said Royces are Vale men. They're right. They're a very ancient first men.
Yeah.
House, aren't they? So they go way back, and I think weren't they contesting with the Arryns for the Vale at one point?
I think so.
Wasn't there a king, or because they were all like petty kings, weren't they?
I feel like and also the thing that they bring up in that podcast. And I was asking it as well back when we looked at the first prologue for A Game of Thrones, that just like there's no real good reason as to why a young Royce is on the wall. And he's one of the few people they seem to always be around. There's there's always someone around from Royce.
I just think it's weird that they gave him his first command and he'd only been there for 6 months. It's like, how did that happen?
If I remember, I will link that video down below. I'll try and find it. But yeah, so I would recommend it though. It's very, very good.
So that was really it for me. It was quite a harrowing chapter. And again, we get this, this is a big element of magic that's introduced into the story.
Yeah.
As having an impact. Yeah.
I'm much more interested in the next chapter because I feel like this is the biggest kind of the mystery chapter. I said to you before we went on air that I feel of all the chapters, like we kind of more or less know the payoffs in all of the other chapters in terms of plot at this stage, where we are now with Dance going into Winds. This is the one where there's a big question still over this one. And it's a relatively short one, I think, John. But this is where they're at the Fist of the First Men, and I instantly love all of the mythology around this. And also Sunny sent me a second question for this chapter, but before we get to it, P-Sans are asking, so do you think it's important that it was Rice that we're introduced to in the Game of Thrones prologue? I do actually.
Yeah, me
I don't
too.
know why. Yeah. There is something very important because he's not the only person to be at the wall at a time when people don't normally go to the wall. The other one, and we don't have an answer to the other two either, Mormont and Benjen Stark. Why do those three characters feel the need to be at the wall? And we don't know if we may see Royce again, as another.
I do think that this links to and has history with the First Men, these ancient houses, particularly the Royces, and the connection with the North and the First Men and who their gods were, because most of what's weird is the First Men arrived in the south, and they were driven and driven and driven by the Andals further and further north. But like we said in the last podcast, was that some sort of, was that just out of necessity, just pushing them out into this barren wasteland, or were they on some kind of pilgrimage where they had this affinity with these gods that belonged in the north, these old gods or cold gods? And then we get the actual Fist of the First Men, which is this fort that the First Men built in this old ancient fort that the First Men built in the Dawn Age. Maybe the Royces were even part of that,
absolutely
building that. So
Sonny has a question for this, which I think we'll probably get an answer to, or we'll try and answer as we go. I'm going to let you go first, though. You don't have to answer this question straight off. You can start with how you feel about the chapter and work your way up to it. It's basically the question everybody has. Ghost finds Dragonglass and a black cloak. It's a Night's Watch cloak, which is put there recently. By who? Benjen, Cold Hands, or the children? So I have a clear bias. Like, I think I'm not that I'm right, but I very much think that it's Benjen. But I'm going to let you take that away.
Well, clearly it's been put there recently. It's soft earth, and Ghost is digging at this and kind of exposing it. I think I'm just thinking of like dogs and scent and Ghost and being a dire wolf, and that if it is a recent thing, then it might have been the scent of Benjen that was there, which he's familiar with. It's a Stark, and maybe that's possibly why he detected it and went for it. But the whole thing actually about Ghost is freaky in this episode, in this chapter. He's very unsettled. He keeps running off. John's having to follow him, and he's just acting out of character completely. He keeps appearing and disappearing. It's like there's something there at the Fist of the First Men that Ghost has some kind of an affinity to, and I don't think it's just, oh, I've stumbled across this thing that might be your Uncle Benjen's, and let's go and dig it up. I think there's more to it than that. I think it's about the location of where it is. I think there's something weirdly old magical that's going on around the Fist of the First Men, maybe similar to the spells that are in the that are attached to the the doors in the wall and things like that. It could all be something that we can just attribute to old magic or ice magic that we still don't really know anything about yet. We know that there is ice magic, but we just don't know how it works, who wields it, how powerful it is. We know more about fire magic, really, and we don't really know that much about that. But I think that I think just instinctively I would say Benjen. I agree, but it could be. It could be a trap, or it could be something that's laid there just to kind of pique his interest. Or the thing is, it's useful stuff, isn't it? It's dragonglass daggers,
and
it's the warhorn.
Ghost is being manipulated by whoever put it there.
Right.
Like, don't go to the ring. He doesn't want to go to the ring, and then he goes back, and he has met Benjen. Also, I feel like it's foreshadowed by Mormon saying that Benjen will come to them one way or another, like dead or alive, basically.
Yeah.
He says, it's easier for one man to find 200 men than 200 men to find one man. So that's just my impression of it. That's definitely, for me, it's definitely Benjen, because I feel like Benjen would be so experienced a ranger that he's probably a very experienced tracker as well. So, and you know, Cold Hands isn't Benjen, but it's not impossible that Benjen is Cold Hands. No, that doesn't make any sense. What I mean by that is he like Cold Hands?
Right.
So
it's a good point. Sonny is saying, why would Benjen leave his cloak when it's so cold?
I don't think he needs it.
Right.
I don't think Benjen is fully with the land of the living.
Okay. Yeah.
And it may be that he can get another cloak somewhere, maybe from another body or something. I don't know, but I don't think. I think if he's a bit like Cold Hands, he may not need the warmth of a cloak.
It might not have been Benjen's cloak. It could have been one of his men. One of the.
Although the scent of it, he could have swapped out cloaks or something. Yeah. Maybe. AU is going. Bye, AU. Thanks for dropping in. Have a good day at work.
Oh, bye. Oh, having to work. Yeah, there's something that's very. John senses it. This sense of foreboding. He mentions the spirits of the first men. So there's something, there's something magical going on here, I think, and definitely Ghost is affected by it.
And Dwyn is it Dwyn? Is that how you say it, or how do you say it?
Dywyn.
Dywyn. When I see things written down, I'm like, I have no idea how this is going to sound. Says that where is it? Oh yeah, that he can smell the cold. And John says that the cold smells like death. So because he thinks back with the terror. And again, it's like the effect of that on him, it seems to not have had the same effect on Mormont. It's a massive thing, and you already know they're out there. So
I'm really questioning Mormont. I think he's going a bit senile, you know.
Or he's gone a bit like Three-Eye Ravened.
Yeah.
He's been Three-Eye Ravened.
Just, I've got a big highlight here, Mormont. Why does he trust Craster in terms of like the whereabouts of Mance? Oh, this is where we're going to go. This is where we're going to take everybody on the word of this slimy, horrible wildling that I already know, gives up his sons to whoever.
And again, Mance was a brother, so he was trained. So it's not implausible for him to pass on his training and knowledge of how the Night's Watch fight to the thousands of people that you're going up against.
Yeah.
Like, even if they are all really crap, even if they all only have a stone, they can still take you all out.
It's funny that the Mormont's Raven says old quite a few times, and it's like, we get it. They're at the Fist of the First Men. There's old, weird, witchy woo stuff going on that's kind of making Ghost really twitchy, and it's reiterated by the Raven that there's old spirits and magic, and weirdly we then find this cache of dragon glass and arrowheads and the warhorn. I've got now that it's interesting actually now. Sonny saying, could it have been the Children of the Forest? That would be the second option, wouldn't it? That they've planted it there as, here's a heads up. This is how you kill the enemy, which also happens to be our enemy as well.
Unless Cold Hands is Rhaegar.
Possibly. Could be.
So no, that's true. The children, but why would they be guiding Jon in particular? I suppose they could be told to, I guess. Like, for me, it makes more sense that it's Benjen trying to protect Jon, his nephew. Isn't
it funny, because in the TV show they just completely did. It was so underwhelming. It was like Sam.
To the point where they had to do so much work in the latest series to try and remind people, oh, this shit is important. Do you remember this?
It's just, yeah, weird. I mean, it must be significant for them to have included it, but they just botched it, really, as far as I'm concerned. But anyway.
Yeah, it's a short and sweet little chapter, so we can move on to Bran if you're ready.
Yeah, I'm ready.
There's a lot more that goes on in this chapter. We get Reek, we get a lot about green dreams, a lot about warging. Get very distinct characterization and conflict almost between Mira and Jojen.
Yes.
And yeah, just a lot more about Bran and how voiceless he is in his position in Winterfell. He's made feel voiceless anyway.
Yeah, and I mean, it's a really, he does still take the chance of going around and telling everyone, though, that, you know, there's like in his own way to kind of be careful, and he does this little health and safety audit of all the people that Jojen has mentioned. I completely forgot that, again, I might be getting it mixed up with the TV show, that it was Jojen who had the dream of the sea coming to Winterfell. I thought it was Bran, but I think it might have been Bran in the TV show. Yeah, I'm getting tired, so they're getting mixed up a lot easier.
Sorry, I put a dish in my mouth, so I couldn't.
No, it's okay. I thought it was Bran, so I was a bit taken aback that it was Jojen that dreamed of the sea entering and the drown, and that there were drowned men in the yard. So Jojen tells Bran that he's a warg, he's a shapeshifter, he's a beastling, and this spikes Bran's memory of, and a lot of us in the readership take anything that old Nan says as this is absolutely true, or we need to really, really pay attention to this. And in these tales where she's telling Bran about wargs, she always describes them as evil. Is this an indication that Bran ultimately is going to be an evil character, do you think?
Well, there's a huge stigma that Jojen basically says they'll call you a warg, Bran. And clearly they don't want to use the word warg. They want to use like green dream, green sight, and they don't really want to think about them. Shape changer. They don't really want to think about the warg thing. And even, you know, that it's kind of already been set up for the reader that this is a bad thing with the Sansa chapter, with Roth's army being called wargs. And it's still Bran holding on to this dream that he's going to be a knight. And we know that knights are evil. A lot of knights are evil in this story. They're not evil, but they're a lot. I don't know. I don't think it'll come down to Bran is good or Bran is evil. I think it'll come down to Bran is the truth, and Bran can do this, and this is Bran's story, and this is how Bran is going to change course of events. It'll be good for some people, it'll be bad for other people.
Yeah, because Mira does say, you know, what are we even, and she's got a point. Why are we bothering? Why are we even doing any of this at all? Why are we here if there isn't some kind of remote chance that knowing this information means that we can change the course of events?
Yeah.
And Jojen says,
I'll go down.
Yeah, I'll kill him now.
Why not? Why not let me try?
Yeah, and I'm glad she said that, actually. I mean, yeah, thinking about it, the practicalities are she probably wouldn't ever be able to get past the guards, but Jojen says dreams don't lie, and it's a little bit like you know, what Mel sees in the fire. So it doesn't lie, but it's all about the interpretation. And we see this obviously in the coming chapters with Theon and the Ironborn when they get to Winterfell, is everything that Jojen said in his dream came true, or the people that he named, the sea coming to Winterfell. It seems an absolute impossibility, but in a roundabout way, that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, but the way Jojen says it, it's way more, it's easier to interpret what he's saying in a lot of ways. Like it's very figurative, like a dream would be, but it's a figurative kind of sense that it makes sense in ways that Mel's dream or prophecies don't.
I agree.
And it's not very, there's not many places you can go with the seed coming. You know, there's not too many ways to interpret that. You know, I'm sure people will disagree with me on that. But I think Jojen obviously told Mira how he's going to die because she gets really upset about why can't you change prophecy? And I kind of feel that might be something to watch out for. Will Mira try to change a prophecy or try to change something that Jojen has seen? Because I don't know. I don't know if she's wrong on that. Sonny says the children want the Night's Watch to know how to use dragon glass against the others. That's a good point. Yeah.
Well, so giving them a heads up, definitely.
Sand is obviously complaining about us and our war discrimination.
Yeah.
Take it to the board of warg issues.
Wargs are people too.
Yeah, wargs are people. Well, or are they? Whenever they want to be, I don't trust them. And then Ion, hi, how's it going? Hashtag save Jojen. Hashtag save Mira. Yeah. I mean
that might be her complete driving force for actually being there is I am going to save my brother. I'm going to do whatever it takes to change this course of events that he's seen in his green dreams, and that's what my mission is. That's why I'm here.
So here's my question: is the first green dream you get a vision of your death? And so when Bran sees himself falling, we automatically think this is him falling from Jaime. It might be something different. It might be a vision of his death.
Yes.
It might be something that that hasn't happened yet. So I wonder, how young did Jojen get his vision of his own death?
Well, he says he was very young. Well, when he had the first green dream, Jojen says he was very young, and it was after an illness, wasn't it?
Yeah,
like a serious illness where he was where he almost died.
Very much parallel with Bran's experience.
So the three-eyed crow, or the three-eyed raven, who is demanding that you open your third eye, is only able to seep into your, whether it's a dream, a wolf dream, or a green dream, or whatever. They're only able to seep into your consciousness when you're suspended between life and death. So there's a small window of opportunity to kind of get in and, you know, kind of meddle into somebody's head and put a prophecy in there, or a dream in there, or an idea, or whatever. It's while you're suspended in this, like, you know, you're almost at death's door.
Yeah, I think that's I think that makes sense with the idea that you'd have to see your death first, almost.
Yeah.
And that Jojen, because he's from Greywater Watch, and they seem to be way more open to magic, that they probably openly talk about this as being something that is possible.
Yeah.
Whereas Bran never hears about warging. He doesn't, like, he's told that all of that, he's constantly told at home that all of that is gone, that doesn't exist, that's all made up.
It's like an old
Whereas
bedtime
Jojen,
story.
you know, it's probably not the first time when he's maybe more open to having that dream.
Yeah.
And doesn't fight it. Whereas we know from being in Bran's mind for the last book and a bit that he does fight those dreams constantly. He's trying to block them out.
Yeah.
Bran the Builder is here. Hi, Bran. Welcome. Here because Ion said so. Thanks, Ion. And calling all book readers. Book readers are here in force. Thanks, Bran.
Yay.
So, guys, if you have any questions on this chapter, especially because this is a big chapter in terms of Bran's arc and introducing him to the concept of green dreams, and like he's kind of had little bits from Jojen, but they really go into it in great detail here. It's also, which I know we've said a lot on this reread, I completely forgot, like, I completely forgot that this is also the same chapter that Reek shows up. And that instantly I got this lurch. It's like, oh God, he's here already. I was like, oh, we'll enjoy this chapter now, because I know this is the chapter that's all about Green. And oh no, I forgot about Reek.
He just slips in there, doesn't he? With Roderick returns with Reek from. So the Manderleys and the Boltons are in open combat now over the Hornwood lands. Sir Roderick doesn't really know how to deal with that or how to resolve it, but apparently the bastard Bolton has died, and he's brought this Reek character back. So he's actually, from what I can remember, he's there for a few chapters as Reek, and he really kind of ingratiates himself, and he's very groveling with Theon later, which is why it's all such a shock when that happens in the books. But just going back to Lady Hornwood and just how horrible and nasty Ramsay is.
I hadn't even finished my last date.
This is a really, I know, this is a kind of like sort of into the realms of science, and I can't remember where I saw this or read this, but apparently it is actually possible to bite through, don't quote me on this, it is possible to bite through your finger, but your brain won't allow you to do it. I mean, like you could physically actually do that. But there's something inside your brain that won't penetrate. It doesn't allow you to do that. And I think, am I right there? Have I read that?
I've heard you say that.
You've heard me say that before, so I must have read it somewhere before.
Just say it over Sunday lunch.
Yeah, apparently you can bite your own fingers off. But,
well, it'll make sense. You'd ruin your manicure.
Yeah, exactly. It would just be, oh God, poor Lady Hornwood. Yeah,
so horrible,
awful,
so horrible.
But apparently that can't. There's something in your brain that stops you from.
So, do you think her fingers were cut off to send a message, or do you think she just lost her mind?
I think she just lost her mind. Unfortunately, she had it all over her face, and she horrible.
Yeah,
let's move on.
Bran says, horrible and nasty, yet, but these amazing antagonists drive the plot in ways the reader completely unexpected. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. It just still makes I think he is as bad as Joffrey and the Mountain are. Ramsay is the one character like I just get goosebumps.
Well, with Ramsay, there's a lot that you hear about before you actually meet him, so that builds this sense of. I mean, already just from that little tidbit there about Lady Hornwood, he's a character that for the reader will never have redemption.
Well, P. Sand reckons that Lady Hornwood was flayed.
That
she doesn't.
So
creepy. What do you mean, P. Sand? She doesn't eat through. It's so hard, and it happens so quickly. Like we only saw Hornwood, I feel like when did we meet her in Bran 2 or something? Like
you'd think that she'd still be quite, so she should have filled up a bit more at the feast, at the autumn feast.
Yeah.
Horrible.
Euron is a favorite character of Bran, so he makes you get goosebumps as well. Yeah, Euron is pretty evil, but I don't know. Although in fairness, the Forsaken does Euron is living up to Ramsay, all right. Right. Oh yes. So I have a big question here. Osha. So I've said over and over again that the apart from Robb, because he's a king, we don't get a POV from Rickon, and we know that Rickon is with Osha now. And this chapter kind of leads in nicely from the Jon chapter in that Bran is asking of Osha, are there giants, and what's beyond the wall, or I can't remember what he's asking her about. She says she's seen giants, and she knows that the others are out there. Or did she say she saw the others? Either way, she knows that those two things are out there, and the reader can assume then that giants are real because we definitely know the others are. But she doesn't.
She says she's seen giants.
Yeah. she doesn't know anything about the three-eyed raven or the children of the forest. And it seems to me that Osha is still very much this untapped knowledge of the North. She probably hasn't revealed things that she knows, or maybe she doesn't yet know what's significant.
She probably thinks people won't believe her, and she's got things quite cushy there at Winterfell at the moment. You know, she's alive, and she's not being treated too unfavorably. So she probably just thinks, I better keep my head down and just, you know.
No, and I kind of feel that I feel that we will have a prologue or epilogue that will involve Rickon. So it'll either be from his perspective or Osha's perspective, and I know what it means. If you get your own prologue and epilogue, I'm well aware of what that means. But I do think I think you're right about you've convinced me about the prologue for Winds being at something to do with Greywater, perhaps, or Jane Westerling or something. But I know it is about Jane Westerling, or feature her. But I do think that either an epilogue of some sort in the next book or a prologue for the final book will be focused on Osha and Rickon. Just because there's an untapped... I think Rickon might be too limited a POV, because I think that kid's scrambled. I think Osha would definitely be a very interesting perspective. That kind of wildling, but has been in the North a while and been with a highborn kid for a while. She's kind of crossed the world. I think she'd be very interesting. We have a lot going on here. So I'm losing all the chat. So Theon.
Well, we will have. Sorry, go on.
Sorry, Theon in A Dance with Dragons wants to bite off his flayed fingers and begs Ramsay to cut them off. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true. Bran the Builder said she was up there for days, right? Yeah, the timing is a bit like, it's a bit weird. Like, she was up there for days, but you can last a long time without eating. So, yeah. Pisan said Lady Hornwood was locked in the room to starve. Yeah, so, I mean, I guess a few months have passed. Ian says, Rickon POV, rar, 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 bark, bark, bark. Yeah, that's basically what Rickon POV is. And I'd read that. A Rickon POV would be hilarious. I think it'll be more an Osha one, I feel.
Remember we've got Davos on currently in the books on a mission to Skagos, so it could be a Davos point of view chapter.
Well, it'll have to be. If it's a point of view chapter, it'll have to be a character we already have. He's not giving us any new point of view chapters, but that doesn't include a prologue or an epilogue.
That's true.
Still have a new character for there.
Yeah.
Bran. Do we have anything? Oh yeah. Ion says Master Kuan is not exactly encouraging. Lewin is not exactly is not exactly encouraging the magic talk. Totally, they're totally like.
No, but he does. The thing about Maester Lewin in this chapter is he does actually believe Jojen, and he does actually start to get quite concerned about the Ironborn. He doesn't dismiss it, which makes me think there is something about Maester Lewin that's driven him to be in the North. That whole thing about when he dies, he drags himself to die in front of the weirwood, and he kind of suddenly pricks his ears up with this whole, somebody had a green dream. What was it about? Right, okay, we need to be concerned about this. But he wraps it up in such a way where it's like, well, of course, the North is exposed at the moment and it's vulnerable, so that would be a concern. And it's like, but it's just the way he's behaving in this chapter is I'm very suspicious of Maester Lewin and what he was all about.
I am too. We talked about that the last time with him revealing his special studies in magic. Ian said, and Gurm can write her being Osha, a POV using the voice of the actress. He has said that he has been inspired by the way the show has portrayed Osha to give her more, or sorry, not the way the show did, the way the actress portrayed her to give her kind of change bits about her character. It's inspiring his kind of thoughts on the character a bit. It wouldn't surprise me if we get a prologue from her giving us an up-to-date on Rickon, and as Bran says, the Skagosi are cannibals. it would be very fitting if she entered the story threatening the life of the Stark and leaves the story defending the life of the Stark.
Yeah.
I think that would be very poetic for
Yes.
Osha's journey.
Yeah.
Ian says maybe Lewin had an Arun style B5 transformation. Bran says he is trained in magic ink, so he's got to be more open to the idea of the magic than others. Yeah, and we talked about that last week. Where towards the end, he basically pulls himself towards the weirwood so he can bleed out better. All right. So, anything else for this Bran chapter?
Well, Bran said, I think the Skagosi are cannibals. I'm not so sure about that, actually. I think that might just be, I think they've perpetuated that rumour to make sure that people don't go anywhere near them. I think they're very secretive. I think I'm dying to, the Skagosi they're the Stoneborn, aren't they? Because they're on the other side of Westeros.
Yeah.
You've got the Ironborn on the west, and then you've got Skagos on the east, and I think they're the
they're like the Orkneys almost, aren't they?
Yes, yeah. So they're very. I mean, there's all sorts of, they're supposed to be like magical unicorns running around on Skagos. So and mermaids, I'm sure, but yeah.
I'd take cannibals, unicorns, and mermaids. 2 out of 3 ain't bad. Yeah, I don't think they're cannibals either, but Bran agrees with you on that.
I think
he has a lovely idea. I want Osha to become the next old man figure. That's a lovely idea.
That is nice. That is a nice idea.
But
I think we might end up seeing, if we get to Skagos, we might end up seeing a very advanced, civilized society that it becomes a shock to us. But they've put these rumors out that they're these, Stuart's saying like Wakanda in the Black Panther. I don't know what that means, but is that a Marvel thing? Yeah, it's a new Marvel thing.
We're not cool enough.
No.
I would love Osha to become an old nan, but I don't think it's going to happen because I love her, so therefore she must die. That's how I approach this series now.
Yeah.
If I love them, they must die. Bran says that I don't think they're cannibals. I think they're green seers, and he agrees to. He says, why would Osha take Rickon to Skagos, where it's known to be dangerous? Knowing he's a green seer, she would. She knows. He needs
and
training.
wasn't there a Stark grandmother, one of the old like she-wolves in Winterfell? Skagosi, yeah. And there's also one of the wildlings, one of Mance's wildlings later on. The what do they call them? They call them they don't call them lords. They've got a different name for them.
That's right, yeah. Does anyone know what they don't say lords?
Magnar.
Okay.
So I think maybe they are probably a lot more civilized, and we're just led to believe that they're cannibalistic savages.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm dying to know what they're actually like.
And I would definitely much prefer, if you're listening, George, I'm praying to the George.
I'm fairly certain that that's exactly where we'll see Davos turn up next in his next point of view chapter, because I remember reading that and Davos figuring out, this was at White Harbour when there was that kind of the farce at White Harbour, and at the end he's told that he needs to go and bring Rickon back, actually, the liege lord, basically the king of the north. And I think and you can hear him figuring it out himself where the location is, and it's like so I was dead excited at that bit.
It's like the way Theon is kind of teasing at the end of every chapter so far where he's going next. Bran the Builder says Varmir showed that wargs need training. Osha would know that. I think that's why she took him there. She knew their secrets too. Definitely they have their own houses, and they have been first rangers. That I didn't realize. I forgot about that. Okay, so that's it for Bran. I guess. And we'll move on to Tyrion 8,
Mm-hmm.
the political small council meeting with Tyrion. Well, first question I have. So Varys is delivering the different rumors that have been circulated about who's killed Renly, and Cersei's like, why are you giving us all this shit? Like, just tell us what you think. And I it just made me wonder. They seem to be losing patience with Varys a little bit.
Yeah.
And is he being deliberately evasive? Because I think he would, after years of being the master of whispers, he'd be well able to tell the truth from the truth from the fiction. Although maybe not in this case, because it isn't very clear.
Well, it could be as simple as Varys is just trying to de-escalate things, or at least slow things down, because it doesn't fit in with the time parameters that him and Illyrio have plotted between them. So this is all happening too fast for their liking. And, you know, a lot of this is Littlefinger in the background, speeding all these battles and you know, the realm being in chaos. This is all Littlefinger. But this, you know, so they've probably both got their own agendas where it comes to what should be happening at a particular time. And I think Varys is just being annoying, trying to slow things down and be, you know, put these obstacles in the way, like silly gossip and things like that.
So this whole, like, there's a lot of talk in this chapter about you know, trying to win over the Tyrells and getting rid of the marriage pact between Sansa and Joff and bringing on Marjorie instead. And there's a lot of talk about who should go, and Tyrion initially wants Cersei to go, just to get her out of King's Landing. And then Littlefinger offers to go. And part of me wonders, okay, we'll know why Littlefinger goes later, but part of me wonders, is it also he knows that there's, you know, King's Landing is very close to being, you know, either sieged or attacked, and it's on its knees. Like, he knows because he's taken on all the money from the refugees, so he knows what the reality is on the ground. But Cersei, I don't know if Cersei really knows that what the full extent of that. So is it more just to get out, just in case Stannis quickly moves on King's Landing now that, you know,
could be. It could be. I mean, out of the before this happens to Renly, out of the three of them, Joffrey, Stannis, and Renly's probably, just because of the size of his host, is in the better position. So there's this massive host without a leader at the moment. I know a lot of them just naturally go over to Stannis, and Kat has these concerns immediately when she realizes what's happened to Renly. It feels to me like Littlefinger's going down there for almost like a job interview with the Tyrells, about what position he can secure. Just, you know, I mean, he's probably playing several sides.
Multi-layered.
Yeah. But what he's doing, he's going into a situation where, if you think about how he plays his little games, there's part of this whole plan is there's a massive area that's leaderless and they don't know which way to turn. They can either come with the crown, or they can join Stannis 100%, or they could maybe even join with Rob. There's somebody who needs to be skilled, and he knows he is, and he announces he is, in like these political machinations where he can get in there and completely manipulate a situation to his advantage. So he's probably desperately scrabbling to be there in the middle of it all. But Littlefinger being Littlefinger, there's always got to be something outwardly as well that's to gain for, you know, for his advantage. He wants to be rewarded for this, and he hams it up as being this really dangerous mission, and how many guards he needs to take. Idiot.
I do like to play alternate history though, with what if Cersei had gone. It would be an interesting, would she be taken as a hostage? or would it actually have given her an opportunity to become more politically savvy? Because later on she'll just continue to be used as like a marriage pawn by her dad or whatever. So could that have been an opportunity for her to kind of change? It would have given Tyrion a lot of ammunition, I guess, as well, or a lot of free reign.
I'm just wondering if she is clever enough, if she'd be patient enough, if she would have enough skills in diplomacy to be able to do that. And I just don't think she'd be able to. I think she would fall at the first hurdle, and they'd end up capturing her.
Yeah.
And you know, Joffrey would probably end up letting his mother get beheaded. So
no, when I say alternate history, it's like
but it would have been a good opportunity for her though, if she'd have played, you know, if she'd have recognized this and been able to play this to her advantage, then yeah, absolutely. But she's very reliant on, it's so weird. It's very weird, the relationship between Cersei and Tyrion. And I know I say this every time that they appear on the page together. He's constantly trying to second guess what her motivations are. And she is with him as well, but I don't think to the same extent. I think she is genuinely, she wouldn't have outwardly admit it, but she can't help it sometimes. She really is pleased that he's there, and that he's you know, he seems to be, even if it's just on the surface, but you know, he's a Lannister and he's kind of he's in their corner. But these showering him with kisses and spinning him round and complimenting him, you know, he's immediately uncomfortable and suspicious.
It's a red flag
about it. Yeah, absolutely.
And it's just like as in hindsight, you're looking at this going, God, Tyrion, you're sending Bran to go look at what Cersei is about to do to you, and how this will eventually go back to Shay. And it's just like, you're just you're trapped, man. You're trapped. The best thing you could do now is get out.
But I think the big thing that comes from this chapter, the bottom line that you can take from this is, it's very clear the situation that Renly's host is left in is that the Tyrells will go where they think the power is. They thought the power was with Renly. They ultimately end up, you know, going with the plan of the marriage alliance with Marjorie and Joffrey. That's who they are. They are that family, that house, who's kind of, you know, grubbing around in the dust for power to be.
Here's the question for you and the chat potentially. If Loras Tyrell wasn't in the picture, or if Loras Tyrell hadn't been in love with Renly, if there wasn't a relationship there, would the Tyrells have gone to Stannis?
I think that Stannis is a huge liability at the moment because of this weird, freaky religion that he's taken on board.
That people are aware of that though yet?
I think they're beginning to be. I think I think they, you know, the people who would make the decisions about who, in like with the lords and the houses, of who to ally themselves with, would know. And I think maybe if Mel hadn't arrived, hadn't brought this religion, and Stannis was maybe didn't have the kind of, you know, if he was a better people person, then maybe they would have done that. I think they're like classic royal stewards, aren't they? So they want to constantly better themselves. And what better to marry Marjorie to the king?
Yeah, but I don't think they would have
whoever the king is.
Yeah, I don't think they would have taken Renly's death as personally, were it not for Loras, perhaps.
No.
P-San says Cersei's too full of herself to be a good ambassador. And more Cersei bashing. Cersei, yeah, I agree though. Cersei weirdly seems to have a more symbolic relationship with Tyrion.
I agree.
Than she does with Jaime. It's so, you're so right, P-San, because there's a weird line where Tyrion says she hasn't kissed me like that since they were children, when Jamie dared her to kiss me. And I'm like, well, your brother sounds like a dick. Your brother dared your sister to kiss you. Like, that's like, why do you even like Jamie? Like, that's awful. Bran says, I might be mixed up with the show and the book, but I thought Loras was the big reason Renly took the crown. That's certainly the way they played in the show, but there's no mention of that in the book, as far as I don't think there is. That they have that love scene in the first series.
In fact, Renly was prepared to send Loras in the vanguard, wasn't he, in the battle, and for him to strike the first blow. So that's almost like a suicide mission. Well, maybe not necessarily with the numbers that they had, but
the only knowledge of our Lord they have is Torres of Myr. He was a drunk put over. I think they would have followed the true king. I think you might be right as well. I think that's true. I'm not sure like, it's so chaotic in Westeros at the time. I don't know how much Mel and her influence as a Red Priest has like infiltrated into the minds of people when they think of Stannis. I don't know yet. I don't know if that's something. The Shadow Baby thing might change that, but I don't know if that has completely filtered down yet. Show is more Loras pushing the idea. That's what Sansa saying.
I really didn't like how they portrayed Loras and Renly in the TV show. I thought, like, the way that Loras just paraded around as a real tart afterwards, and it was like he was in the books. He's heartbroken. Like, they were,
it was very much. They're not that buff and stuff. Like, they're very. Like, incredibly. Not that the show characters aren't masculine, but I think they're like. They're way more I don't know, they're way more masculine in their appearance in the books. I feel like they're symbols of what a man should be of the age. And I'm not saying that if you're a gay man you can't be a symbol of what a man should be at the age, but I felt like the show kind of played to some gay stereotypes.
Yes, I agree.
I didn't really like, and I felt Renly just was really off-putting in the show. Really off-putting. He's really humorous in the book, and even I love that line with Loras, come in here and help me pray, like you were saying earlier. Like, it's hilarious. And he's much more open actually than in the show about sexuality in a way.
Completely. I mean, it's the everyone's talking about it, and that's why he gets taken by the faith, doesn't he, for that reason?
P-San said they wussified Renly so much. He was a bit better in season 2, but he was very he was really wimpy, not very nice at all.
And Loras again, very stereotypical, like, a bit of a tart, and just like, oh, he's gone now. Who's next? And it's Renly, like, no, it wouldn't have been like that at all.
Renly is a less aggressive, but still very much a younger Robert in a lot of ways. And he should have been closer to Robert.
But just going back to what I was saying about this chapter, though, it's all about the Tyrells. They've got 50,000 swords, so where they go where the power is, but equally, whoever is trying to maintain the power. So Tyrion is doing quite a clever political thing here, but really he's got no other choice. If he's being sensible, he needs to get the Tyrells on board before they go scurrying to anywhere else. So he can see those numbers and he wants to have them. So
it's not just men, it's bread. That's the big thing.
I do think that Tyrion and what do you think of Tyrion and Varys's like little subplot in this chapter to make a man of Joffrey?
Yeah, that was creepy.
A little bit.
And like Tyrion already knows that he had Sansa stripped naked. He saw him strip Sansa naked, not for his sexual pleasure. It was for her humiliation and for he didn't care that he was seeing her naked. It was because it was humiliating to her, and also it would hurt more when she was being beaten. And I think Tyrion is still thinking that Joff is a child who can be changed.
Yeah, or if he falls in love,
yeah.
he'll suddenly become like Tommen.
And it's a weak point that he has with Cersei as well.
Mm.
He still thinks they're family. There's something in there that's good about them. It's a weak point that Tyrion always has. His family. There's something good in them. They can be changed. He should be more like the Hound, who's like, my brother is an arse. He's a complete sadistic pig and should be taken out.
Yeah.
Like, he needs more Hound in his life. That's what he needs. And Varys just thinks all religious people, there's nothing good in them, just get rid of them. Like, I feel like Tyrion needs to be more like that.
Yeah.
But he will be, I guess, he will get more like that towards the end. Yeah. So,
but again, with Tyrion, because of who he is and his experiences when he was younger, it's very easy for somebody to compliment him and his head to be turned.
Yeah.
And even though he's suspicious of it, he kind of wants it to be true. He wants his sister to love him. He wants Shay to love him. It's sad, really, in a way.
It is, yeah. And he has, he's no mother, probably no, as he sees it, maybe no opportunity to have children.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, from Tyrion to Theon 3. God, I hate Theon so much in this chapter.
Yeah.
So, they take over a village and they destroy it and they win it easily and it's great. And they take loads of salt wives and slaves and kill loads of people and they feel great. And he remarks that one of the people that they kill has a banner with a dead, like obviously dead, with a rabbit skin on it. And so they're the wild hares. They were fighting for Robb. So Theon doesn't realize
the tall hearts.
Yes. So Theon doesn't realize it, but he's actually just openly got into war with Robb.
Yeah.
And it's funny, it's so ironic because he keeps thinking about what Ned would say and he keeps thinking about how unfulfilling what they're doing is. There's something that doesn't feel right about what they're doing.
Everything about Theon is conflicted in every single one of his chapters. In this chapter, as you said, he's conflicted about who his father and who his fatherly influence is. So he thinks about what he feels ashamed and embarrassed, even momentarily, about what Eddard Stark might say.
Yeah.
He thinks briefly about what his father might think of him and what his father would say. And he also thinks about what Robb would. It's all very raw for him and he's very conflicted and he doesn't seem to know what to do for the best. He just wants to be able to, why can't he have this glory the same that Robb has had? In fact, if anything, if I put myself into Theon's mind, my father is a king.
Yeah.
I should be inheriting this crown. This is something that was like, Robb was lucky, but I actually am owed this. This is something that belongs to me and I need to prove it. But he's been a wolf he's this complete split. And the fact that he's 19 and he's been with the Stark since he was 9 years old, that's a complete chuff right down the middle. And he's got part of his life, he's Ironborn, and he remembers the people that he runs into in these chapters. He kind of thinks about how he remembers them when he was a boy. But he's also, and he wasn't mistreated as much as he wants to believe that he was never mistreated really by the Starks.
And he met them through Ned as well, didn't he? Yeah.
So he's in this position where he needs to flex his command because he's terrified that he won't have the same glory and acclaim that his sister has or that any of his uncles have, and even Cleftjaw taking this glory. And this is an old man that he should revere, really, given his past history. But there's something about all of this where it just leaves this he doesn't like the taste of this victory. It's not the way he wants it to be. And he remembers his glory days when he was in the Whispering Wood and he was that close from. It just made me laugh in this chapter that it's like you're so dizzy almost with, you know, regaling the tales of when you were, you know, brother at arms with Robb Stark, and you can almost see the expression on this old Ironborn guy's face of like, and I'm not interested. What are you telling me this for? This is you and your glory when you were the wolf boy. This is nothing to do with who you are and what we expect you to be. But he's being, I mean, the other thing about Theon is he's being chaperoned here, isn't he? He's being chaperoned by Aeron. He's being chaperoned by Cleftjaw. It just makes me think, actually, although in this chapter you get you want to get the impression that, oh, Theon's being quite clever here. He's realizing what people's weaknesses and strengths are, and he's trying to play to them. And I mean, he's trying in his own Theon way to manipulate this situation to his advantage, so he gets the glory, and people are confident of him in his command. But he. Everybody's suspicious of him. All the Ironborn are suspicious of him. Even his own sister and his own father. Everyone, as Asher already said to him in the previous chapter, no one knows you. You know nothing about the Ironborn, and nobody knows you. Why should we trust you? So with that in mind, and considering what we know that happens later at Winterfell, do you think that Theon wasn't? Do you think that giving Theon command was really just for show, and the actual person in command here of this entire mission was Cleftjaw?
Yeah, I think so. And also, I think they knew that they would be running into... Oh, bye, Sonny. Thanks so much, and thanks for your questions. Have a great week. We'll see you Sunday week.
Yes.
Yeah, so I think that's true. And I also think that... Balon may have known that they would run into Robb Stark men eventually, and that Theon would face this, because Theon, it doesn't register with Theon who he's just killed. He doesn't realize what the story is with the Tall Hearts, and maybe I'm just reading too much into it. Maybe Balon has a clue, but. He's sending Theon to an area where it will get back to Robb pretty quickly. Who's leading the Ironborn in this area? Or at least it should do. And it's emasculating for the son of Ned Stark to have a woman from the Ironborn take great northern houses. To convince Theon to do this very mediocre raping, pillaging, to just have him like not even do a princely thing. It kind of kills two birds with one stone. It emasculates Theon, but it also sends a very strong message to the Starks that look what I can get my son to do. I can get him to do the most menial Ironborn shit. And I'm going to send my daughter to take the north. I don't think Theon is in charge. I think as well, it's very nice going into the Arya chapter that Theon he has no confidence in who he is, in his own identity. And that's true of Theon throughout the series. And he can't hide it. He can never hide it. But Arya, on the other hand, is very confident in her identity as Arya Stark. And because of that, she's able to hide all the time.
What do we think in the chat, people? Do we feel? Does anybody feel sorry for Theon at all? Can anyone kind of understand how he might be feeling? Should he be a redemptive kind of character?
Yeah, we talked about this last week as well.
He's one. I've said this before. And I think we both said this. He's probably one of my favourite characters to read because he's so complex.
Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely. Particularly when we get into later chapters. I really enjoy them. P-Sant says that I can relate to Theon.
Yeah.
I can, because he's definitely like a teenager, an awkward teenager who's pulled in two directions, you know, with his stepdad and his real dad. So
I mean, if you think about it, in the show, he seems to be very easily forgiven by Jon, doesn't he?
I mean, yeah, I don't know how realistic that is, but
yeah. I mean,
I know he does.
You know, after all of this build-up of this very complex character, there's that kind of like, well, just be both. Then just be a Stark and a Greyjoy. There you go, done. It's like,
yeah,
we've just spent years.
I mean, whatever, if it ever happens that he does meet Jon in the books, he'll be meeting a very different Theon to the one that's in the show.
Yes,
and
I wish they'd done that in the show.
And toes and
it's very the way that he ages, and he looks like an old man. His hair goes grey, everything. I wish they'd have done that. And I just think, I wonder if that was ever suggested, and maybe it was like the vanity of.
I think he would have done it.
Alfie Allen.
I think he'd have done it.
Yeah, he is pretty. Just throw himself into it. I think.
I just don't think I just don't know. I don't know. I don't think people believe that can happen, but that can happen.
Yes. Yeah.
I know people in my life who've gone grey over a couple of years because of severe trauma.
Yeah. Yeah.
It does happen. But yeah, I still think Alfie Allen is one of the best cast.
Yes, he is actually. He's very good, and he wasn't. I mean, he didn't have a massive amount of acting experience.
No, he's brilliant
before this.
He's so good. Liam Cunningham and Alfie Allen are two of my favourites.
Yes,
and Rob Stark, the guy that plays Rob Stark, is very good as well.
Hi, Amir. Amir says hi,
and P-San says. Oh, Ian says, Gurm loves doing this, shows with a number of his characters. That's true. And P-Sand says he wants to impress his dad so much each step just takes him so far from what he wants. Yeah, and I wrote down he's got daddy issues big time. Again, going from Tyrion with daddy issues into Theon with daddy issues. There's always a thread between these chapters.
I'm just looking at Iron Throne's comment. Wasn't it Theon and Gendry from the TV show Skins? I didn't watch that. I know I've seen the character who plays Gendry and Theon.
Emmerdale or something.
Yeah, I think the thing about the actors that are in the TV show is because the majority of them are British. It's really peculiar for us because we've seen them before in really weird, like a lot of the actors that are in Game of Thrones also appear in Merlin, the BBC show, and again it's like a historical, set in a similar kind of, the dress the same way and things like. It's a bit weird. Also, the actor who plays Sam was also in I used to watch Shameless, the British version of Shameless.
Yeah, I love Shameless.
And he's from Wythenshawe, which is where my husband works in Manchester. Then he's really got the accent. But also the guy who plays Stannis, there was a TV series called The Tunnel. I think it was based on like a Swedish thriller, but that was really good. I watched the first series of that and that was really good, but I just couldn't help thinking, it's Stannis.
The guy who plays Roose is a very famous comic actor in Ireland, and he played two amazing roles and they could not be more different to Roose. One was this guy with massive kind of almost afro-like ginger hair called Fergus. And he was a swinger, right? Him and his girlfriend, his fiance, and he was in this show called Fergus's Wedding. It was only a really short thing. It's hilarious. I recommend checking it out. But every time he was in a stressful situation, he'd have to eat soup. And we reference Fergus a lot because he does the weirdest things, like he microwaves pot noodles and but at the swingers parties, like he's always making pot noodles and everybody else is like getting up to all sorts in the orgy and he's always like, oh, I think I'll just go and have a pot noodle. He's always trying to get out of it. So it's really weird to see him playing Roose. And then the other character that he played was a guy called Rats. And he was this real kind of, he was a wannabe rapper. And he hasn't changed. Like he looked like he did, 20 years ago. But honestly, it couldn't be more different for Roose. When I saw him turn up as Roose, I was like, what the So weird. So,
I can imagine him being a good comic actor, actually.
Yeah, I know Gilly was definitely in Skins.
Yeah, she was. Yeah.
Yeah.
And who else? Oh, there was a couple of years ago. I was doing some work in London, and I got off the train at Euston, which is the big train station in London, and I was coming out of the train station, and just somebody familiar walking towards me, and in those kind of situations where you think, oh, it's somebody that I work with, or it's a friend of a friend, or somebody that seemed familiar, but you don't, and you kind of go to say hello to them. And then within that split second, as I kind of walked past, I realised it was the actor who played Podrick Payne. And I was like, oh no,
it was Pod that was in Emmerdale, was it?
Oh,
not Gendry.
Maybe. Yeah, I don't know. But I remember
is he
kicking
really
myself.
Small?
No, actually, no, he wasn't. He wasn't that small. No. But I remember thinking, oh God, I should have stopped and see, I don't know, just said hello or asked him a question, or I don't know. But it was just so bizarre.
That's brilliant.
Walked past him in Euston, and there was somebody else that I was going to mention. Yeah, but it's just really strange when you see some of the actors that are in Game of Thrones cropping up in comedies and weird sort of TV shows that you wouldn't expect them to be in.
If I can think of it, with the Royce podcast, I'm also going to try and find a trailer for Rats and Fergus, and you can go and see Roose Bolton softened, rapping and
Roose the rapper
or soup. All right, so I do have a flight to catch in the morning, so let's go to Arya.
Okay.
And yeah, this is she gave the last chapter, she gave her name as Chiswick, and now she gives Jaqen she gives him Whisa's name, and she just had enough of him. And who'd blame her? And this is the scene then where she also goes to see Gendry, and she's not even sure she wants to see him, and Gendry kind of chastised her because Hot Pie heard her roar out Winterfell, and he said, she didn't say Winterfell, she said go to hell, and Arya's like, that's stupid, I wouldn't say go to hell.
Yeah.
And it's moments like that you're like, oh yeah, she's just a kid. But yeah, she's still questioning who she is. She's like, am I the ghost? Am I a mouse? Am I a sheep? She's always kind of constantly questioning who is she, her identity all the time. And as Rourke tells her, like, I think Rourke calls her urine slut or something like that.
Yeah.
And she realizes that Rourke, as soon as she mentions looking for Jaqen, Rourke looks terrified.
Yeah.
So whatever Rourke has seen Jaqen do, or whatever he has said, is enough to like silence Rourke for like in an instant, with this like bald little 8-year-old kid, this serving girl.
Well, what can that be? It can only be that he's seen him change his face, surely.
Perhaps. Yeah.
You're going to need to lift him.
Oh, poor Marwyn.
Yeah, sorry. Okay. I've got a few notes for this. Shall I just very quickly run through? So I think the fact that, and I've mentioned this a little bit before, I think there is some strategic, we as readers, we're kind of told that what we need to feel here is that, oh, she's a silly girl and she's made a bit of a silly mistake and she's not giving him the right. And she even kind of realizes this in a way herself a little bit at the end of the chapter. She even thinks to herself, I should have said Tywin. But at the very beginning of the chapter, she is running around trying to find Jaqen to give him a name before the Lannister forces leave. So there is a little bit of strategic thinking from her there. There's this thing inside Arya where, and it's an emotional thing that's tied to her starkness and wolfness, because when she hears about Robb and what Robb's been doing, somebody says he's more wolf. No, somebody says something about Robb, and she thinks to herself, he's more wolf than man, and so am I. so she's immediately associating herself with, and again, which makes me think, was Rob a warg? Did something happen? You know, anyway, later on, maybe we'll discuss that in a bit more detail at the Red Wedding. But she, even like we said before, she can take the beatings. It's horrific, but she can take those beatings from Weiss. But the thing that tips her over the edge is the way that he embarrasses her to the point that she feels like less of a wolf.
Yeah.
So he takes her power from her. It's nothing to do with physical violence, which is horrific, but she can actually deal with that. And in a way, she regrets later on at the end of the chapter, I should have been somebody else, and it was too late, and I couldn't get to Jaqen to kind of say, look, I've changed my mind. But it's the fact that she sees him as an immediate threat because he's trying to take away her power that makes her feel confident in that she's a wolf. So all of this like side eye contact and feeling as though he can hear her thoughts and things like that, that's what she can't deal with. It's not the physical beatings, it's the fact that this guy's getting into her head and making her feel like less of a wolf.
Is that where he hangs her on the hook and rips her dress and then tells her to go sew it?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's horrible.
Yeah. So it's just, but it's that aspect of him, I think. The only other thing that I've got is the list that we've actually got. I've actually written down the amount. There's 12 people currently on this list. We can take off Weiss. I think later on down the line we can also take off Polliver and Wrath the Sweetling and the Tickler. So there's still the Hound, so like where we're at now, there's still the Hound, Sir Gregor, Ilan Payne, Meryn, and Cersei. So there's out of the 12 on her original list, there are still 5. I don't know about Sir Armory. I think he dies, doesn't he? I'm sure he does.
He dies, yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, just the way that it's like a prayer to her, but it's this mantra when she's sewing the dress that she has to repair. And that's when she says that it's like she's constructing this survival identity for herself. And she's crafting it beautifully, really, in a way, but also terrifyingly at the same time.
And it does tie in with Sansa's arc as well, because the last time we saw Sansa, the dress ripped off her. And but again, Sansa in that instance is still dependent on somebody else coming and fixing that, like with Tyrion, whereas Arya doesn't have that. And when she does get that with Jaqen, she kind of misuses it in her own head. She misuses it because she goes out for a very personal vendetta instead of taking out Amory or the Mountain or Tywin or any of those guys. She just she does that. And I did like what you were saying there about her scheming, because I did make notice of that one. She thinks a lot about the fact that most of them can't read, and that's something that she could take advantage of. And that idea that, you should use whatever you paid attention to in Winterfell, use it. Like, even if it was like the Septa or Maester Luwin or whatever, even if you didn't like it, it's going to be of use to you.
Yes.
So the fact that you were made read is a good thing. And I did like the way she's planning on using anything. It's not just going to be violence. She might.
Education is important, children.
Yes. Your needle.
Learn your flags and your heraldry and
yeah, exactly, yeah. But yeah, it's a as dark as this little world is for Arya, she's making the best of it.
Yeah.
And so, in fairness, so is Gendry and so is Hot Pie. They're not alone in making the best.
And in the very, very limited scope that she's got, in a way, so is Sansa.
Yeah. But like Hot
yeah.
Pie and Gendry would have probably been in the same position on the wall. I think it would have been a lot colder.
There is a point when she does think about putting Hot Pie on the list.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Oh my God.
She's so cold sometimes.
Yeah. But that's what kids do, like, you know.
They do. Yeah.
Oh my God. But yeah, so that's it for me on Arya. Unless you have anything else.
No. Just, I mean, like I said before, I always enjoy Arya's chapters because there's that breadth of surroundings wherever she is, and she does travel quite a bit, so they're always enjoyable chapters. Any questions?
Any questions in the chat? Next week will be positively brief in comparison because 6 chapters.
Yeah.
Eventful chapters. We're way over the halfway mark. Yeah, we're Cat 5 to Tyrion 10. And yeah, way over the halfway mark for the book now. So bang on. Thanks so much, everybody, for coming today. And thanks, Claire, for
Yes. I was just going to say we've got 2 Tyrion chapters in those 6, so
yes, we do. Yeah,
things are really progressing at King's Landing. Have a safe flight tomorrow.
Thank you very much. I'll say hello to the north for you all. Yeah.
So Sunday, we're not this Sunday, next Sunday, which is
the 18th, I think.
The 18th. Yeah, that's right.
So 18th at 7 UK time. Yes. Cool.
Yeah.
All right, guys and girls, thank you so much for joining us in the chat. And thanks, Sunny, for sending your questions in advance. You can always message me if you want me to put any questions down for our chat. I'm happy to do that. Or just comment on the video down below. And thank you so much, Claire.
You're welcome.
Everybody have an amazing weekend and week. Bye everybody.